You're sitting at home, flipping through channels when suddenly a news alert stops you cold. A privileged young man stands before a distinguished magistrate and does something so shocking, so utterly unthinkable, that witnesses can barely process what they're seeing. He spits, not just anywhere but in the sacred halls of justice, directly at Judge Frank Caprio, as if the honorable judge were nothing more than dirt beneath his expensive shoes. Your initial reaction, pure disbelief. Then anger floods in. But the real question burning in your mind is, what price does someone pay for showing such blatant disrespect to everything society holds sacred? What happens when privilege collides with the law, when someone believes their family connections make them immune to consequences? The answer unfolds in a way that will leave you stunned. This isn't your typical courtroom drama. This is the story of what transpires when entitlement crosses a line so severe that even veteran legal professionals stand frozen in shock. And it's about a sentence so brilliantly constructed, so precisely matched to the crime, that it will renew your belief in the justice system. Friday morning, 9:30 sharp, Providence Municipal Court. Derek Castellano, age 24, enters Judge Frank Caprio's chambers with the swagger of a man who owns the world. His designer suit, worth more than most people's monthly salary, drapes perfectly across his shoulders. A gleaming Rolex reflects the overhead lights. His meticulously groomed appearance and expensive fragrance announce his presence before he utters a single word. But it's not his wealth that draws every eye. It's the palpable air of superiority he radiates, treating everyone present as beneath his notice. Derek is the offspring of Providence Mayor Anthony Castellano, a political figure who spent 15 years accumulating influence through shadowy negotiations and nepotism. While the mayor mastered the art of concealing his questionable ethics behind charisma, his son never learned such subtlety. Derek wears his arrogance openly, like a trophy. Trailing nervously behind him is Jonathan Pierce, the mayor's personal legal counsel, whose usual composure has completely evaporated. Pierce frantically checks his mobile device, whispering urgent cautions that Derek dismisses entirely. The attorney understands exactly what his client has done, and he knows that even mayoral connections might prove insufficient to shield Derek from what's coming. Seated among the observers is Patricia Morales, a 68-year-old grandmother whose existence Derek shattered precisely 7 days prior. Her arm rests in a cast, her face still bears the marks of trauma, and her eyes carry a weight of suffering no senior should ever endure. Patricia insisted on being here today. She wants to look directly at the young man who treated her as worthless. Why is this mayor's son facing Judge Caprio today? The previous Friday evening, Derek piloted his father's official mayoral vehicle through Providence's historic neighborhood at 70 miles per hour, in a 30-mile-per-hour zone. He was broadcasting live to his online followers, boasting about how normal regulations don't apply when your father controls the city. When Patricia Morales began crossing legally at a designated pedestrian area, Derek faced two options: decelerate to allow her safe passage, or accelerate to avoid delay. Derek selected a third choice that exposes his callousness. He intentionally directed the vehicle toward Patricia, compelling her to flee for her safety. When she couldn't escape quickly enough, Derek's sedan struck her hip, launching her onto the concrete with 3 fractured ribs, a broken arm, and extensive bruising. As Patricia lay wounded, Derek lowered his window and screamed, "Move faster next time, you decrepit woman." But Derek's heartlessness didn't conclude there. As bystanders rushed to assist Patricia, Derek shouted, "Next time, remain home if you can't match traffic speed." Then he departed, abandoning a grandmother bleeding on the pavement. The entire incident was captured by the sedan's official recording device, which Derek forgot was active. The footage reveals him deliberately steering toward Patricia, laughing as she collapses, and celebrating as he flees. What makes this case particularly devastating is Derek's subsequent behavior. When law enforcement arrived at his estate, Derek displayed no remorse. Instead, he contacted his father and demanded the mayor resolve this matter before it tarnished their image. Today, Derek anticipates his father's influence will minimize the repercussions of nearly ending an innocent grandmother's life. What he fails to realize is that Judge Caprio has reviewed the footage repeatedly and prepared a lesson about accountability that will haunt Derek eternally. The court officer announces, "The State of Rhode Island versus Derek Anthony Castellano. Allegations: vehicular assault, abandoning an accident scene, reckless endangerment, failure to provide assistance." Derek approaches the defendant's position with the nonchalant confidence of someone who's never experienced genuine consequences. He doesn't acknowledge Patricia Morales among the spectators, demonstrate awareness of his charge's severity, or show elementary respect for legal proceedings. Instead, he retrieves his smartphone and begins browsing social platforms. Judge Caprio raises his gaze from the documents with the dignity and patience he extends to every defendant. "Good morning, Mr. Castellano." Derek remains silent, absorbed in taking photographs of himself in the courtroom, apparently documenting his appearance for online content. "Mr. Castellano, I'm addressing you." Derek glances upward with visible annoyance, as if Judge Caprio has rudely disrupted something significant. "Yeah, what? Can we expedite this? I have a lunch appointment at the country club in 60 minutes. The casual dismissal of legal proceedings as less significant than his social calendar sends immediate ripples of disapproval through the observers. Judge Caprio maintains his professional demeanor despite the disrespect. "Mr. Castellano, please store your device and focus entirely on these proceedings." Derek rolls his eyes theatrically and reluctantly slides his phone into his jacket. "Fine, but this is genuinely just squandering everyone's time. My father's already addressing this entire situation through appropriate political channels." Judge Caprio's tone becomes more firm. "Mr. Castellano, you're confronting serious criminal allegations including vehicular assault and fleeing an accident scene. How do you respond to these charges?" Derek's reply reveals his complete detachment from the gravity of his actions. "Your Honor, I plead not guilty because this entire situation is being exaggerated beyond proportion. It was merely a minor traffic incident that got distorted into something dramatic." Judge Caprio examines the case documentation carefully. "Mr. Castellano, according to the police documentation and dashboard recording, you deliberately operated your vehicle toward Mrs. Morales as she was crossing lawfully in a marked pedestrian zone." Derek's explanation demonstrates his stunning lack of accountability. "Your Honor, I was operating normally when this elderly pedestrian suddenly materialized in the intersection. I attempted to avoid her, but she was moving extremely slowly and created an unavoidable collision." "Mr. Castellano, the dashboard recording shows you steering directly toward Mrs. Morales." Derek's response reveals his willingness to deceive under oath. "Your Honor, that recording is deceptive because of the perspective. What appears as deliberate steering was actually me attempting to swerve around her, but she kept altering direction unpredictably." Judge Caprio's voice becomes more pointed. "Mr. Castellano, following the collision, why did you depart the scene without verifying Mrs. Morales's condition?" Derek's answer exposes his complete absence of empathy. "Your Honor, I could observe that other individuals were already assisting her, so my presence wasn't required. I had significant commitments that couldn't be postponed for a minor accident." Judge Caprio turns to Patricia Morales among the spectators. "Mrs. Morales, would you please approach and inform the court about your injuries?" Patricia rises slowly, her cast and bruises visible to everyone present. Derek watches with obvious irritation, as if her testimony is an inconvenience. Patricia's voice is quiet but unwavering. "Your Honor, I sustained 3 fractured ribs, a broken arm and bruising throughout my torso. I've been in constant agony for 7 days. I can barely rest, cannot lift anything, and I'm terrified to cross streets now. Judge Caprio's voice becomes gentle and respectful. Mrs. Morales, what did Mr. Castellano say to you following the collision? Patricia's answer sends shock through the courtroom. He called me a decrepit woman and told me to move faster. He said I should remain home if I can't match traffic pace. Then he departed while I was bleeding on the pavement. Derek interrupts with explosive defensiveness. Your Honor, that's completely fabricated. I never uttered anything like that. This woman is obviously deceiving to make me appear guilty. Judge Caprio's voice becomes sharp. Mr. Castellano, Mrs. Morales is testifying under oath. Do you possess evidence that she's fabricating? Derek's response reveals his toxic worldview. Your Honor, elderly individuals often misremember events, especially when they're attempting to blame someone else for their own accidents. She probably doesn't even recall what genuinely occurred. The casual dismissal of Patricia's testimony as confusion rather than truth sends outrage through the gallery. Judge Caprio's expression hardens. Mr. Castellano, are you suggesting that Mrs. Morales fabricated your comments? Derek doubles down with stunning cruelty. Your Honor, I'm suggesting that individuals her age sometimes interpret things differently than they actually transpired. It's not her fault. It's simply how elderly cognition functions. Judge Caprio has heard enough of Derek's fabrications and excuses. Mr. Castellano, I'm going to present the dashboard recording audio for this courtroom. Derek's complexion goes pale as he realizes the vehicle captured sound as well as video. The audio plays distinctly through the courtroom speakers. Derek's voice is unmistakably heard declaring, "Move faster next time, you decrepit woman. Some of us have significant places to be." The courtroom erupts in angry murmurs. Derek has been exposed in a direct fabrication under oath. Derek attempts damage control. Your Honor, that audio is extracted out of context. I was frustrated and uttered things I didn't intend. Judge Caprio's voice becomes relentless. Mr. Castellano, you just testified that you never made those comments. Now you're admitting you did, which statement is accurate? Derek realizes he's been caught in perjury. Your Honor, both statements are accurate. I didn't intend to utter those things, so it's as if I never genuinely said them. The illogical explanation reveals Derek's inability to accept responsibility. Judge Caprio continues the audio. Derek's voice is heard again. Next time, remain home if you can't match traffic pace. Derek stands up in desperation. Your Honor, that recording makes it sound worse than it was. I was merely attempting to educate her about pedestrian safety. Judge Caprio's voice becomes ice cold. Mr. Castellano, you characterize insulting an injured elderly woman as pedestrian safety education. Derek's response reveals the depth of his delusion. Your Honor, sometimes elderly individuals need direct communication to comprehend that they're creating dangerous situations for everyone. This is the moment when Derek makes the most catastrophic decision of his existence. Instead of displaying remorse, instead of apologizing to Patricia, instead of accepting responsibility, Derek decides to attack Judge Caprio's authority directly. Your Honor, I don't believe you comprehend how significant my family is to this city. My father is the mayor. He employs half the individuals in this room. You can't just railroad me because some elderly woman got injured in a traffic incident. Judge Caprio's voice becomes deadly quiet. Mr. Castellano, are you threatening this court with your father's political position? Derek's arrogance reaches its zenith as he commits the unthinkable. I'm not threatening anyone. I'm simply explaining reality. My father governs this city, and this court operates in his jurisdiction. Derek steps forward aggressively, his face crimson with rage. You work for the taxpayers, and my family contributes more taxes than anyone. So yes, you work for us. And you're going to dismiss these fraudulent charges, or my father will ensure you remember who genuinely has power in this city. Judge Caprio stands up slowly, his expression showing controlled fury. Mr. Castellano, step back from the bench immediately. But Derek's rage has consumed all rational thought. In a moment of complete insanity, he spits directly at Judge Caprio. The courtroom explodes in shock and outrage. Derek has just committed assault on a magistrate in open court. Security rushes forward, but Judge Caprio raises his hand to halt them. Judge Caprio's voice becomes terrifyingly calm. Mr. Castellano, you just spat on a judge in a court of law. That is assault, contempt of court, and the most serious mistake of your entire existence. Derek, realizing the magnitude of what he's done, begins to panic. Your Honor, I didn't intend it. I was just frustrated. I apologize. Judge Caprio's response will haunt Derek forever. Mr. Castellano, you're about to learn what accountability resembles when it's too late for apologies. For vehicular assault against Mrs. Morales, I sentence you to 3 years in state prison. Derek's eyes widen in horror. For abandoning the scene of an accident, an additional year. Derek's voice cracks as the reality strikes him. For perjury under oath, an additional 6 months. Derek starts to beg. Your Honor, please, this is excessive. I made mistakes, but I don't deserve imprisonment. Judge Caprio's voice becomes more relentless. For contempt of court, an additional year. Derek breaks down completely. Your Honor, I apologize. I'm genuinely sorry. Please don't do this to me. Judge Caprio delivers the final blow. For assault on a judge, an additional 2 years. Total sentence, 7.5 years in state prison. Derek collapses in his chair, sobbing uncontrollably. Your Honor, please, I beg you. I'll do anything. Please show mercy. Judge Caprio's final words destroy Derek's last hope. Mr. Castellano, you showed no mercy to Mrs. Morales when she was bleeding on the pavement. You showed no respect for this court or the law. You showed no remorse for your actions until you confronted consequences. Mercy is earned through genuine remorse and acceptance of responsibility. You've demonstrated neither. Derek is escorted away in restraints, still begging for mercy that will never arrive. Patricia Morales watches with quiet satisfaction as the young man who treated her like refuse finally faces justice. 7.5 years later, Derek Castellano will be released from prison, a transformed man who finally comprehends that political power can't shield you from the consequences of your own cruelty. Judge Caprio's perfect justice proved that no one, absolutely no one, is above the law, regardless of how powerful their family or how entitled their attitude. The young man who spat on justice learned that justice strikes back harder.